Hey everyone, I hope you're well. Let's talk about Soundhound here. So, Soundhound has really, this has been the story of Soundhound. It's just been such a shocking stock all of 2024, and now starting up again here in 2025 here. Q1 came out for this year. It wasn't as grand as we thought. They lost some momentum. We're like, what is going on here? But still very much in a ballpark of very new place with revenue, that 30-40 million dollar, trying to get $40 million at that point in revenue. But now what we're seeing, this new quarterly Q2 that just came out here with Soundhound, it has completely just left everyone's jaw wide open, and we're going like, okay, this changes everything. So now Soundhound is in this situation where the dark horse that I was calling it for a long time now, it's on the move once again. So the last quarter that came out here, the quarterly, was $42.68 million, crushing expectation of $32 million. Obviously, Big Bear came out with quarterlies today. They were devastating, not good quarterlies, which I expected them not to hit quarterlies, but they were worse than expected. So now Big Bear is just being ripped apart in the aftermath, but we'll see where that lands. Now Soundhound here, it's been such a flip-flop situation where, we had Soundhound kind of lose momentum towards the end of 2024 going into 2025, and then Big Bear started to pick up a lot of momentum. And then people were saying, like, I was reading in chat rooms, people are like, well, I'm going to shelf this Soundhound situation because quarterlies weren't as good as we thought. And then people went over to Big Bear, and now we're kind of seeing this flip-flop once again. So these two stocks have just been filled with so much emotion. But this is why I've been so drawn to Soundhound still, to where that even that last quarterly there in Q1 of 2025 here this year, before this newest one, it was still showing, even though it did not hit expectation, it was still showing us that they're still very much in this realm of $30 million revenue range. So that it was very, very good. Now today, Soundhound really, just went right back up into almost $16 range. Now this isn't new territory for Soundhound. We've been here before. When Soundhound first initially really shocked the market was in December, when it went to almost $25, and then we had January come in, stock market was doing really good then, but Soundhound started to lose a lot of that steam, selling off, and then February came, and then that was the descent down into the market selling off. And so since then, SoFi has been hanging on. Soundhound has been hanging on around this $7 to $10 position here and there, and even with that Q1 here, the biggest we had since then was $11. I guess we did hit $12 here in July, but today, and this is kind of what I was telling people here. Last week I was like, get ready, Soundhound is going to do what Soundhound does, and it is going to run here. So Soundhound, the stock price obviously is looking for new ground. It's moving up. People are excited. It's right back in that caliber of where do we go from here. A very teeter-totter situation right now with revenue, but in a good way, in a really good way. So I think right now, Soundhound, obviously, it's been a lot more quiet this year in Soundhound land, where last year we were getting a lot of talk about what was going on. People were, talking about Soundhound nonstop. They were getting crazy amount of deals. And now, we find ourselves with Soundhound. This year's been a lot more quiet, but besides that one deal that we just got a month ago with Soundhound, not even a month ago, with the chicken restaurant, I can't remember what it's called, but something to do with chicken. I don't know. I don't think anybody cares. It was just a deal, and that's what we want to see with Soundhound. But it's been quieter this year. It's been quieter. So it was very shocking when Soundhound came out with this huge revenue increase. The bullet points of what we know with Soundhound, deals that they still are actively in right now, are a lot of these fast food restaurants, the auto industry, and to just general random other ones, especially over in Europe. That was a big thing that happened here recently, within a year's time now, that Soundhound broke off into the European market. So that's really, really interesting. So I would, there's some people that just don't want to be a part of Soundhound because the deals are a little too choppy and revenue's a little too choppy, which I get. But the argument at the end of the day too is still that they're doing well. They're making up they're in a whole new range of revenue. Two, with that, Soundhound is very different, I think, than a lot of other, I'll say, more popular AI stocks right now, where Soundhound, really, they're just kind of this lone wolf out there where they're finding their own source of revenue, making their own bread and butter with that. They're not a part of the government. They don't have government deals. They're completely wrapped up in a different realm out there with bringing in money. So I think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people say too, could Soundhound get another, now that Soundhound's doing so well here, unlike the beginning of last year, can Soundhound get another investment from Nvidia again? I don't know. There's no evidence for that right now, because I've seen a lot of people say that in the comments. The thing that really, obviously got the ball rolling last year with Soundhound was that they had one big investment early in the year from Nvidia, and then later in the year, that was when a lot of the deals were starting to pour in. Plus, Nvidia, the Soundhound quarterlies were picking up quite a bit, so it was getting very emotional, and the stock was moving fast at that point. But Nvidia does that. We see Nvidia do that to kind of answer that question for people that may not know that, Nvidia, for years now, since they have so much money, they just go in and make investments in other companies that they see some potential in. They've done this time and time. They do it every year, and they stick around for a moment. They buy the stock cheap where they want it, and then they sell it, get out. Now, it was interesting that Nvidia made two solid investments in Soundhound, not just one. That was kind of like, okay. But can that happen again? I don't know. There's no evidence for that. But, right now, things have definitely changed momentum-wise in Soundhound. It's a weird situation going on with Soundhound. It very much is. It's very, I want to fight for it, and I want to say, like, I really think that people need to look at this for a long-term play. The weird thing about Soundhound is that, I think some of us were here buying Soundhound at $2-3. So the fact that now people are having to pay $15 to maybe $17 here by this end of this week for Soundhound is kind of a crazy statement to say, especially with these unknown waters of where it's at right now. But I think it's pretty obvious it's in a whole new path of revenue. So I'm curious to see where Soundhound's going to go here this week. This is a new quarterly, new position with revenue. Investors are hyped about it now that Big Bear is kind of taking a lot of damage here this week. I fully suspect that Soundhound will start to get more attention here at this point, and definitely be looked at more. So I don't know. We'll see here, friends. There's, like I said, it's been quiet in Soundhound land. Like there's not a lot to talk about. They just have not. I don't know why, but they're one of those companies where they just don't talk a lot. They just don't talk a lot, and it's a very hard place to be because you just want them to talk more, but that's kind of where we're at right now. Friends, I want to wish all of you luck with Soundhound. I think it's a tremendous play, very good what's going on over there. It's very interesting. The stuff, obviously volume is out of control right now with the share price, with what's going on. Tomorrow the Feds will be talking, so I would, right now we're projecting that the Feds are not going to say something good, but it could lead to good things, as in the market will get rate cuts, which will turn the market around for some amount of time. So with that, Soundhound could struggle a little bit with the overall market this week, but nonetheless, Soundhound is, it's on fire in a good way, in a real good way. Friends, take care of yourself. Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.